inflation equals climate change. And so if you're an environmentalist, you cannot, the problem of environment cannot be solved from the system, because what's happening is the free market is actually making things cheaper. And that technology is driving. So now you have clean, green energy.
Hello, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. We have a very important guest today because the best thing about the Rich Dad Radio Show is I get to talk to some very smart people, and most importantly, some open-minded people, because that seems to be a rare quality today, is open-mindedness. You know, I mean, his name is Jeff Booth, and he wrote the book, The Price of the Future. He wrote it for his daughters so they could understand. I mean, your daughters, Jeff, or your children?
Daughter and 2 sons. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I already stepped into it. Why did you write the book for your daughter and 2 sons? The future.
So yeah, The Price of Tomorrow, why deflation is key to an abundant future.
Right.
And I wrote because I could see what was happening. There were two massive trends hitting each other.
Right.
One technology that made everything cheaper.
Correct.
And hitting monetary policy all around the world that must make things more expensive. Right. And those 2 trends, what I realized is the breaking of society, what would happen as a result of those 2 trends hitting each other. Right. is we look for things in our life that get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. We look for value. And if monetary policy tries to stop that, it just concentrates wealth and privilege.
Correct. And that's what the Fed and the Treasury are doing right now in Wall Street.
Exactly.
They're making life more expensive for the people. Yeah. So and I want to also ask Jeff's question this: could it be partially the result of monetary policy?
It's not partially a result. Almost every single action that you see around the world, the signposts are everywhere, and people are focused on the symptoms, and people are spinning up around the symptoms. It's actually what's creating a whole bunch of division of the world, the us versus them in the world, because people are taking a side of an issue.
Correct.
Without realization that the issue itself that they're talking about is a derivative issue of what we're talking about here. The monetary printing, the easing of money, essentially trying to make your money worth less.
Correct. So before we go on, this is very, I love this. I love my work here at Rich Dad Radio because I get to talk to very smart guys. And Jeff is a very smart-minded, open-minded guy. But Jeff, would you give us a little bit of background? You know, you already started about The Price of Tomorrow. Yeah. You wrote it for your daughter and 2 sons. What is your background, and why did you write the book?
I'm a technology entrepreneur, and I built a lot of technology companies. And what I was struggling, my first technology company, the technology, it took 3 years to build the logistics technology, and about $5 million. That technology is available today for about $50 a month. So when so what I realized is, why isn't everything I'm doing equating to lower prices? And what an entrepreneur does to derive value is looks at the world and says, why does this work? Why does this industry work this way? And I can provide more value. And so that's what I've done all my life as an entrepreneur. Right. And then what I realized is the system I was operating in, the entire system at a meta level, we were all operating in, was the biggest opportunity of our lives. Right. For the same reasons. Prices should be coming down. Right. And prices were going up. Right. And I wanted to look deeper into that. And I realized when I looked deeper into that, I realized over the last 20 years, to stop prices from coming down, there had been $185 trillion of global easing of printing money or making up money to drive $46 trillion of GDP growth. And you realize, okay, on one path, 2 totally different forces. One path had to drive prices up. One path had to drive prices down. Which one would win? What are all of the different secondary things that would happen as a result of those 2 forces colliding against each other? So I wanted to explore it.
So let me give you an example, because years and years ago I was a student of Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller, and he talked about this. He says prices should be coming down. It's called ephemeralization. That what entrepreneurs and capitalists do is they provide better products at better prices.
Right.
So when I look at the homelessness problem exploding, a lot of the homeless have jobs. They just can't afford to live in a house. Like, the government's charging them $90,000 for a pup tent or something in San Francisco. And so there's forces that want to keep prices high, which is the Fed, the Treasury, and Wall Street. And then there's the entrepreneur who's working to bring prices down, to do more for less, to make a better world for everybody.
Yeah.
So
And keep on that for a second. If an entrepreneur doesn't get, is in a free market, doesn't give you more value, the business fails.
out of business.
Yeah, it's out of business. And so we celebrate all the essentially the monopolies we're creating through Google, Facebook, Amazon, everything else. We're celebrating what we're talking about.
Right.
Apple.
So what Jeff is talking about, I think you mentioned, what was it? Netflix versus Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
And Netflix had a better system.
Yeah.
The same product basically, but a better system. The Blockbuster's out of business.
So yeah. So Robert, this is an important concept because today, right now, as a derivative of what we're talking about, people are getting confused and they're blaming each other.
Correct.
I don't blame Blockbuster.
No.
It was impossible for them to transition their stores from 9,000 stores to a model driven by technology. In fact, all of their advantage became their disadvantage. And what they did is they added candy aisles to their stores. And we laugh at that. And we laugh at that. But ask yourself, what would you do? When all of a sudden download speeds were really slow and then they were fast and your business model changed in an instance. That's what technology does. It allows different value and we celebrate that every day, and it's deflationary. Now ask the same thing on our financial system. It's not bad people. It's a system that it's built on credit. And if you allow deflation, the credit gets more and more expensive and it can't, and everything would reset. So everybody in the financial system is trying to outrun deflation, which is a stronger force, by printing more money. And all the secondary consequences are as a result of that fight.
So let me say this again. When I was studying with Fuller, this is in the 80s, it was a novel idea to me. He was talking about we should always be working to do more for less.
That's the point of humanity.
Yes, everything should be done more for less, and everything for free. So it was almost socialistic. So I had a hard time listening to him, but I also realized I had to change the way I thought about things. So when we designed the cash flow board game and all this, the way I was doing it, we were going around to Singapore, to Canada, to the US, all over the world trying to teach this product. And I said, if I produce a board game, it'll teach more people for less effort, more efficiently. It works harder than me, little game, So that when I started looking at this little thing here, it's the iPhone. What Steve Jobs did, he made this product. This product is 1,000 times smarter than him. It works harder. It goes all around the world and all this. He's providing more for less. So naturally, Apple should make the money. And you know what I mean? That's capitalism. That's ephemeralization and all this. And hopefully someday this will be obsolete. Yeah. Is that kind of what you're saying?
I am, but because people are when you have misinformation in the base layer of money, so you're distorting.
Correct. We're talking about something. We're talking about money versus the product.
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to get there. When you have misinformation in money, then you must have misinformation everywhere else. So a lot of people would look at Apple, what you just said, and say, that monopoly, we got to break it up, without the realization that actually the monopoly is getting stronger and stronger and stronger because of the misinformation and money. It wouldn't look like that under a free market. There would be other competitors that would be racing in to try to drive that faster. But you're right, we use it because it provides us tremendous value, and most of the apps are free.
Yeah, there's so much free on that phone. It's amazing. Yeah. And I don't like the censorship that other people are putting in there, but that's a whole nother story there.
Right.
But so the other thing, we're talking about Bitcoin today. So when I was listening to you speak on whose program it was, your depth of knowledge on why Bitcoin is the money, is the future of money. Would you mind going into that? Because I'm just a guy who likes to make money, but I don't understand Bitcoin.
Sure. And I think first off, I need to say it's way bigger than money for me. What I did after the book, I was looking at these two forces, and everything I said in the book is absolute facts. We have technology that's making things cheaper, and we have a system that's trying to make things more expensive.
Right.
And so what I was looking for is a solution, any solution. Could the existing system change itself to provide abundance to humanity? Or would this existing system fail through war, revolution, everything else like it has done in the past? And I looked and I wanted to actually find a solution out of the existing system. But what I realized is system changes, why Kodak doesn't change themselves, why Blockbuster doesn't change themselves. There's too much inertia in the system. And so out of everything that I found, then I found and I was already in Bitcoin, but I became all in. No, I don't say all in, it's not all my wealth, but I thought this is going to be the best thing to be able to transition humanity from one system to another system. And the new system would be a way better upgrade for humanity. It would be beneficial for everybody.
So why is that? Why is that? What do you see as a technology guy?
So the technology, there's a lot of pieces to this this question to do, and it's quick. Exactly, a lot of pieces to this question. But first, the scarcity. So you either have abundance in money and scarcity in everything else, or you have scarcity in money and abundance in everything else. We are moving to a more and more digital world where prices should come down as things become information. So as things become information, if you think about I used to buy CDs for $19.95 per CD. There was a whole infrastructure of people that said only these artists can be seen. Now I buy unlimited music for $9.95 a month. And so I get way more for less. And it's the way things are moving in everything. That means that you either have two choices. If you run an inflationary system, which you create more money out of nothing against that system,
which is going on with the Fed and the Treasury and the
exactly. That's the world we live in today.
Right.
Then what you do is you concentrate all power in government. Unilateral. It just keeps on moving. 26% of GDP today is government spending, and it has to structurally get more and more and more. You centralize all control in government, and proven throughout history, if you centralize all control in government, it looks really bad for the humans.
Communism.
Exactly.
You know, people. The definition of communism is central control government and central control economy.
So the question, yes, so that path is a given, and that path is where we're going. And by the way, if you think about how instead of getting mad at people, think about them acting in their own rational best interests. The government pushes up prices unnaturally, so house prices go up, rent prices go up. There's a whole bunch of people that don't have those houses or assets, and they lose from that. And who do you think they go to help save them from the prices that were manipulated higher in the first place? Same government. Right. And so back to the same government. So you have this political divide with both parts of the government saying the same thing. It's their fault, when it's actually the fault of base money.
Right.
But it's natural because people are incented to invest. It's to say, I need money desperately to feed my family. So they empower
So that's where the frustration boils to the surface too.
Exactly. So what they do is both Republicans and Democrats are fighting over a battle up here, and it's way down on base money. That's a different. And so both parties are printing more and more money and trying to drive inflation in the system, and it's unfixable from the system. And what you get is a whole bunch of people yelling at each other, thinking that they have the answer, and they're all wrong.
Right.
And that has to get worse.
Right.
On the existing system.
Jeff, we need to move on, but I also want to recap what we've been talking about here. A pure entrepreneur and a pure capitalist is always looking at how can we provide a better product at a better price.
More value for people.
How can we serve more people, not fewer people?
Right.
And the trouble with the existing system with the Federal Reserve Bank, the Treasury, and Wall Street, it's only to serve the rich.
Yeah.
And then you have homelessness spreading all over. People are afraid of inflation, and they have to have inflation because if it stops inflating, we go to depression.
Yeah.
So that's why we wanted Jeff Booth on here to discuss that. But then the next subject I want to get in, because I'm very, when I was telling about Buckminster Fuller, he said he predicted Bitcoin, and he predicted Bitcoin as he was watching young kids, probably your generation, playing video games, and they were already using tokens. So with that, he said, that's the future. And so the old guys of my generation are still clinging to the greenback and the dollars, but the future was coming up already. So that's why I really enjoyed talking to Fuller. But we come back. The most important question is, I've been hearing more and more of the naysayers against Bitcoin that it's pollution. And, if you're not green today, you're dead. So I was listening to another podcast, you speaking about pollution. How polluting is Bitcoin? So when we come back, we'll be getting right into that.
Hi, folks. Rich Bontrager from the Rich Dad team. And let me tell you, I couldn't be more thrilled about the landslide win. Donald Trump is back in office, and we've got both the House and the Senate in our corner. That's huge. But let's get real for a second. While the victory is sweet, the challenges we face as a nation are nothing short than monumental. We've just come out of 4 years of economic chaos. Think about it. The dollar has lost value. Inflation runs rampant. Interest rates are through the roof. Our national debt is out of control, and wars rage around the globe. Donald Trump has inherited an economy that's a total mess, and the burden to rebuild it is immense. Now, let's be honest, this isn't going to get fixed overnight. And even as we work to restore order, the cost of rebuilding will be steep. Printing more money to address the issues, ongoing assaults from BRICS nations on the dollar, and even climbing national debts are massive concerns. Here's the deal. Your savings aren't in the clear. They're vulnerable to these uncertainties. And let me tell you, gambling with your wealth right now is not an option. In these last few years, that taught us anything is that we need to take action, proactive steps to protect what we've worked so hard to earn. That's why Rich Dad is partnering with Allegiance Gold, a company that we trust to protect your financial future. Gold and silver are timeless ways to hedge against economic chaos. They're not just investments, they're peace of mind for your wealth. Here's the kicker. When you start your investment with Allegiance Gold today, you'll even get free silver as part of their exclusive offer. Just mention Robert sent you, and they'll take great care of you. Folks, now is not the time to sit on the sidelines. Act today. Secure your wealth. Go to protectwithrobert.com or call 844-3-ROBERT. That's 844-376-2378. And let them help you get started today.
Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android and YouTube. And please leave a review when you listen. And all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com. We archive them because we are just purely an educational company. We make no recommendations of buy this, sell that, do that. And most important, listen to it again. Go to richdadradio.com. You'll pick up twice as much in the repetition. But if you really want to understand what we're talking about today, have a friend, family, and business associate listen to it, and you guys discuss it as a group. Because when you discuss it, more of what we're saying will seep into your mind here. So our guest today is a person I respect tremendously, Jeff Booth. His book is a great book, The Price of Tomorrow, because it really fits in with one of my teachers, Dr. R. Buckminster Fuller. He was called a futurist. In fact, John Denver called him the grandfather of the future, because that's all he looked at. And Fuller was talking about a thing called ephemeralization. He also predicted Bitcoin. He also predicted the internet long after he died. He was way ahead of his time because he was a futurist. And so we have our guest today, Jeff Booth, The Price of Tomorrow. And what Jeff is saying fits exactly in, as Buckminster Fuller was saying, is that we have to be doing more for less and serving more people. That is our job, not to raise prices. And if we do our job, which is do more for less for more people, we make a lot of money. And it's quite a novel idea. So Jeff, once again, welcome back. And once again, give a quick reason why you wrote the book, The Price of Tomorrow, because I thought that was very, very altruistic or important.
I wrote it for my kids. I wrote it for when I realized the way the world was heading, and all the signposts. I realized that you had two forces hitting each other. technology that was creating more for less on an exponential scale, and a government policy trying to do the exact opposite, give less for more, is actually make your currency worth less. And those systems were going to, those systems naturally were going to cause a whole bunch of society to break.
Okay, and you're a technology entrepreneur. I know the iPhone is beyond my capabilities, but anyway. But so I listen to guys like you, and you're talking about Bitcoin. It keeps my spirit up as I'm waiting for it to retrace a little bit more today on the price. But then my future is bright with Bitcoin. I have gold, silver, Bitcoin, and bullets, as I say, because I get ready for the transition. But one of the things I've been picking up is Bitcoin is polluting. It's a very, environmentally unfriendly product. And you were saying something on another program why it isn't. So
yeah, it's exactly the opposite. So Robert, this is really important, and for a lot of your listeners, because this is so challenging, that it's a different system. A deflationary system based on a free market is a totally different system, and they're measuring the system from the negative externalities of an existing system, so they can't see it. So what ends up happening is technology requires a digitally native currency that allows for deflation. Every other, and say that again and again and again, it's a requirement of technology.
Yet again,
technology requires a digitally native currency that allows for deflation. And why? Because every other currency must concentrate all power in the hands of a few people with how fast technology is going. That is such an important concept. It's a requirement. Now, out of all of those things, Bitcoin is that, I believe, is that currency. It's the biggest network. It's the strong. It's proof of work. Is actually the thing that takes currency out of government's hands to be able to manipulate currency, to be able to continue an inflationary policy against a stronger deflationary force. Those are facts.
So what you're saying is that the government, as it stands today, must have inflation.
Must have inflation.
And what Fuller was saying was that God wants all of us to do more with less to serve more people.
Just think about it in that point. Why do we use technology in the first place? We use technology to free our time. It is an abomination that it doesn't flow to more people, because it's being centralized, and that time is being robbed by central bankers. So most people are getting, the rich are getting really well, their time is saved, but the poor are getting killed by that. And it's a recipe for disaster and wars and revolution. That's what ends up happening. And you can see the signposts everywhere. So you must take, Buckminster Fuller also predicted an energy currency, which Bitcoin is. It's tied to energy. So now on the climate conversation. So at the highest level, remember these are two different systems. At the highest level, just think about this. Inflation equals climate change. So on a finite planet, that you're going to manipulate currency to grow, to pretend you can grow forever, and you're going to keep people working harder and harder and harder and harder.
Okay.
And they need more jobs to be able to pay for artificially higher prices, and they need more oil to drive to more jobs, to more and everything else. And you're going to keep that going forever. It's a recipe for the earth to fail.
So let me give you one more example. Is right now the way I used to do these types of interviews, I had to fly to New York from Hawaii, and then go in a hotel, stay there for 3 days, all this money, and then come back. And then sometimes I never got on the radio show or the TV show.
Right.
So now we're on and off.
And that's just starting. Most of the deflation is in front of us. And so let's now talk about energy specifically. So today, solar and batteries driving about 11% cheaper energy per year on a course. So now it's one of the lowest prices of energy, and it's expanding rapidly. People could say, I don't like solar, everything else, but those are the facts about the data. That means you have more for less in energy on a trend that's getting more for less all the time. And energy is the number one input in everything else. So if energy is now lower price and getting more abundant, because of technology, then it means everything else must be falling at the same pace of energy as well. So it's actually more deflationary. So what would you do if you're a central banker and you had that math equation, and deflation made this whole system fail? What you would do is you would print more money, and that printing money would make oil prices go up. And then then a whole bunch of companies that couldn't make profit in oil before at the oil price would now be profitable, and they'd run more oil, more jobs, more oil, more everything else. And so you have these two systems that, they're moving further and further away. And why you can actually see what the other system must do. Remember when I wrote the book, I predicted how much money had to keep coming. It needs to be exponentially more on one side, because technology is moving it exponentially more the other way. And it's not just the money. It's the money is essentially robbing people's individual rights and freedoms and concentrating power in the government. And what they're not seeing is that. But worse, climate can't be solved. If you care about environmentalism and climate, it cannot be solved from an inflationary monetary system. An inflationary monetary system means the world must burn. Must.
Say that, repeat that, go back, push the repeat button.
Yeah. An inflationary monetary system, essentially growth forever, manipulated growth forever on a finite planet of fixed resources, must equal planetary destruction. It must. Inflation equals climate change. And so if you're an environmentalist, you cannot, the problem of environment cannot be solved from the system, because what's happening is the free market is actually making things cheaper, and that technology is driving. So now you have clean, green energy, making it so it's cheap, it's abundant, and everything else. And people are using it because market forces are demanding, because it's cheaper, and the system must create prices that go up artificially.
Correct.
So these are in contradiction of each other, and you have a whole bunch of environmentalists that actually believe Bitcoin is bad, and Bitcoin is actually the only thing I think right now that can save our planet. Because it's a different system. It forces a different system. It forces a deflationary system, and that deflationary system creates the broadest based abundance for humanity. You get more. Everybody gets more for less.
Correct. The way Fuller, this is 1981. He wrote a book called Critical Path. Max Kaiser, who was very, very pro Bitcoin.
Yeah.
He's a Bucky Fuller devotee also. So I'm looking to get him on so we can talk about Bucky, because Bucky was a futurist. So your book is The Price of Tomorrow, and we're talking about tomorrow, but it's today.
Yeah.
The technology is here.
It's moving so fast,
Yeah.
and people with recency bias, especially when you're measuring a system by, people are measuring short term their house going up, without the realization that the house wouldn't have gone up without $185 trillion of stimulus.
Correct.
And so they're caught in a system that's getting worse and worse.
So let me go back to 81. I was listening to Fuller. He says, think about this. Every morning people get up, that costs money. They get in their cars and they drive, and every time they stop at a traffic light, they got millions of horsepower sitting there just burning fuel as they drive to work. He says, think about that. If you just cut that out, we would save the planet.
Yeah. Well, so let's use that example as far as what technology is going. So today, capacity utilization of an automobile is 6%. Most of the time it sits in your garage or sits in your garage at work. So we don't use it 94% of the time.
I have 6 cars, so
they're right. So it's worse for you, and same for me. Same for me. So we don't use it most of the time. What happens when cars can drive themselves?
Yep.
So when cars drive themselves, what ends up happening is you change a structure of an industry, and essentially I could rent my car back to the fleet, and it could pick up other people at the same time. So capacity utilization explodes. It's actually going to be way less sales of cars as we get more for less. parking changes in cities dramatically. And and there's nothing that can stop these forces. The other side, what do you think is happening right now? As governments are pushing, I can tell you from my businesses, as governments are pushing up labor rates by inflation, what would a natural business do to be able to compete? People say, I can't find talent. That's not true. If you want to pay them $100 or $200 an hour, you can find all the talent you want, right? You can't find talent at the price that the market will pay for your services.
Right.
And so what do you do when that becomes evident? You remove labor with technology faster, creating a cycle that these forces are driving in the opposite directions.
So let's go back again to the argument, because it's come up more and more and more and more, the Bitcoin people haters, or any kind of crypto haters. Say it again, okay? So somebody says to Jeff Booth, Bitcoin is polluting the planet. How do you respond?
Bitcoin saves the planet.
How? How specifically?
So that proof of work, having a currency that is unable to be manipulated in inflation against a deflationary force, that essentially takes currency out of the hands of government and puts it empowers people as a result, allows prices to follow their natural order in declining.
That means people have to work less to survive.
Exactly. Or so those two different systems. So that's in one system. Even Keynes predicted a 10-hour work week from today. What he didn't realize is his own policies would be used to create this Frankenstein monster. And so technology allows you to work, you get more for less. It should be pretty ubiquitous. It should be common knowledge in everybody's minds, because those are the technology companies we use every day. Why wouldn't life look like that when we're all rational people making decisions in our best interests, and we make decisions that should bring prices down? Now, if that's the case, why do we also believe in a world where prices must go up when every rational actor in a system will vote with their own wallet prices coming down? But we believe in a system that looks exactly the opposite. Anyways, tied to climate change, those two systems are polar opposite. One system, inflationary monetary system, must burn the earth. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse, exponentially worse. And the other system provides the broadest based abundance and is in harmony with nature.
So Jeff, thank you very much. I could listen to you all day long. Always welcome back to the Rich Dad Show. Anything you want to say? Something?
Thanks.
I love it. When I read your book, The Price of Tomorrow, it was like Bucky Fuller was reincarnated in you.
By the way, that's saying something, because Buckminster Fuller was incredible and a man ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. He changed my life. So many times I studied with him. So Jeff, thank you. Keep up the good work, and I appreciate your time. So
thanks. You too.
Thank you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.